Hello, everyone. This is episode 4 of the AWS Power Hour for Generative AI developers. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Today, we will focus on GenAI operations and troubleshooting. And as usual, we're starting with quick introductions. I'm Oksana Hackley, and I am part of AWS training and certification. In my role at AWS, I'm creating technical courses and contributing to different learning initiatives, just like this one. And I'm also joined today by two of my friends and co hosts, Frank and Raf. Frank, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, this is Frank. I'm based out of Germany and joined AWS 6 years ago as a senior technical trainer, and I teach all of the machine learning classes and happy to support you in your preparation for this exam.
Yes, and I am
Awesome.
Raf. And I am Raf. I work on the same team as Oksana and Frank in the AWS training and certification team. And I work as a principal cloud technologist, creating these courses. Some of you may know on camera, but I am very happy to be here on the live streaming to talk with you, right? And we usually say that the live streaming it navigates according to the winds of the chat, right? So the chat is very, very important. So if you have any question about everything that we are talking, just put on the chat. We will be bringing people the questions from the chat on screen as well. And what do you think, Oksana, about asking people where they are joining from and if they watched the previous episodes so far?
Yes, yeah, we're always interested to know where you're coming from. It's exciting to see the little banner pop up with different locations around the world. I'm based right outside of Washington, D.C. And oh, I see someone's from Paris. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm in New York on the West Coast, and I would like to actually thank Frank a lot because he's in Germany and it's 11 p.m. for him. So that's
Yeah.
commitment. Thanks so much,
Absolutely,
Frank.
yes.
Yeah. So thanks for. We have people talking from Spain. We
That's
have.
exactly as 11 p.m. as well.
Oh, it's the same time
Wow.
zone. So that's
Yes,
dedication. So very nice.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if it's 5 p.m. for me on Eastern, is it 6 hours? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So yeah, that's very cool. We are live streaming in multiple locations. Oh, look at that. Amit is in Berlin.
All right.
And
Yep.
let
Right.
us know if you watched any of our previous episodes. And we would like to know if you're studying for the exam or you're just here to upskill or maybe spend the evening with us. What are your goals? How can we help you?
Yeah. People, I assume there is a delay between what we say and what people see. That's why the messages on the chat are coming. India, Colombia, Philippines, Pakistan, Bulgaria. Thanks a
Wow.
lot. We have people all
Wow.
around
Thank
the
you so
world
much.
watching us. This is so exciting. And this is what we love doing, using live streaming capability and training to extend beyond just having you guys watching a video with no interaction and spreading knowledge all around the world. So, speaking about that, speaking about the knowledge and keep the messages coming, it's very appreciated. Let me go over the agenda of what we are doing today in the show. Oh, New Jersey, look at that. I am also in New Jersey. So, money must be close to me. So we are going to talk, as Oksana said, we are going to talk about operations and troubleshooting because these are covered areas of the exam, right, of the professional exam. So let me share my screen here. Let me have my screen shared. All right. So the content domain number 4 and content domain number 5 are the things we are going to cover in today's episode. We covered other contents on previous episodes of this series, which are available the video on demand recording if you want to watch. And the number 4 is operational efficiency and optimization for GenAI workloads. And the number 5 talks about testing, validation, and troubleshooting, which is what we are going to talk on today's show. Let me open these two individual links on separate tabs, and let me quickly go over what you may expect us talking about today. And again, we have an agenda, but as I said, live streaming goes with the winds of the chat. So if you, as long as it is in these two topics, please keep the questions coming, and we will bring it on screen and we will address these questions. All right. We also have chat moderators doing a great job here of providing you with links of things we show and additional details. And I just see that Turner is here to upskill. We are together in this. We are going to help you with that. Stay with us because in this episode, we are going to talk about operational efficiency and optimization for GenAI operations and testing, validation, and troubleshooting, all for the professional exam guide, right? Which is currently in beta in February 2026, but it should be released soon. So we're going to talk about the domains 4 and 5, cost optimization strategies for GenAI applications and troubleshooting approaches and where to look for issues. We're also going to talk about token usage, how to measure token usage. We are going to show you demos of these things, because one of the necessary skills is develop token efficiency systems to reduce foundation model costs, create cost-effective model selection frameworks, right? And one thing that we are going to talk about in this episode is that you should use the right model for the right job. Sometimes you just want slim responses. You don't need to consume a model with lots of tokens and a model that will do deep research with knowledge bases. If you just need simple answers, you can use simple models. And because each model consumes tokens and the charging is based on these tokens, so use the right model for the right task. Develop high performance FM systems, foundation model systems to maximize resource utilization. Create intelligent caching systems. So these are areas that the exam will ask you to have knowledge about. In terms of optimization application performance, and 4.3, implementing monitoring systems for GenAI applications. We are going to talk about CloudWatch events, CloudWatch logs, and also testing, validation, and troubleshooting. Implement evaluation systems for GenAI is 5.1, and troubleshoot GenAI applications, which is 5.2. So we are going to talk about these topics by helping you assess and resolve content handling issues. So we have some things here prepared. I see more people are talking uh, from Nigeria. Hello AWS. Hello Vitor. And that's nice. It's 3 a.m. in
Oh,
Pakistan.
wow.
That's true
Wow.
dedication.
That's
That's
early.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
true
thank you for joining
dedication. It's
us.
so cool. So and all right. Curious One 2 is also in New Jersey. We have people from Colombia. And I think we are ready to move forward with the actual meat, with the actual cool things, right? And I think Oksana is prepared to talk about token costs and cost optimization opportunities. So, Mike is yours.
Thank you, Raf. Yeah, so I will begin with just a little bit of theory about around cost and cost optimization. And we also have a couple of really exciting demos for this topic. So I'll try to keep my part really condensed. When cost is really important when you're building applications live in production, and it's important for the exam because likely you will be asked to find the option that is the most cost effective, that is the cheapest option out of the other ones. And for this topic, I would like to bring up the Amazon Bedrock pricing page. Thank you. There are several things that can impact your cost, and I'm going to narrow this down specifically to Bedrock, and I'm not talking about the cost of additional services here. So when we think about foundation models, what can happen in terms of cost? You need to pay attention to the model you choose. Models can vary in cost. Another important thing to look at, so here I'm choosing Amazon Nova specifically. Another thing to look in this area is the region. Depending on your region, the cost can slightly change. What's another thing to pay attention is the tier, and I will go over several available tiers. So the model, the region, the tier, and also the price for 1 million input tokens and 1 million output tokens. You see, the output tokens are typically a little more expensive. And when you're building the applications, take a look at the pricing. Try to understand, if you're generating text or image, audio, the cost can depend on the type of output you're producing. Now, I would like to also bring up your attention to the capacity options. This is right now I'm showing the Amazon Bedrock documentation guide. And specifically, I'm looking at the capacity limits and cost optimization page. So there are different tiers that you can consider. There's 3 on-demand tiers: Flex, Standard, and Priority. Flex being the lowest cost per token. The standard one balances cost and performance, and the priority tier has the highest on-demand cost. You could optionally reserve model units in exchange for a 1 or 6 months commitment. This is best for predictable workloads. If you know that you have additional demand on Fridays or certain days of the week and you need to accommodate that demand, that's what the reserved tier is best for. Something interesting I found out about this is when you reserve model units, you're accumulating costs on the hourly basis here. The tier that would help you save the most is the batch one. This works best for non-time sensitive processing and workload. So it's not real time and not near real time. This is something that can happen in batches. Sometime, not during a non-specific time of the day. And also we have cross-region inference that you can enable additionally. We talked about cross-region in one of the previous episodes. It works best for spikes in demand. If you know that on certain days of the week you need additional capacity. And cross-region inference is built on demand. So it follows the on-demand pricing. And when you're taking the test, when you're looking at the questions, you might be given this scenario and you might be asked, what is the most cost-effective solution for this specific use case? So you have to really understand how am I being billed or charged for this GenAI application in this scenario? Is it on-demand pricing, or maybe there is batch processing that can work better? It really depends on the situation. And really, for me personally, if I'm building the GenAI application, I worry about costs. I need to be aware of how it's accumulated. I know that Frank and Rav have real demos prepared, and they would like to show something cool right now.
Yeah, it is very likely that people will concern with costs when building their AI productions applications, their AI applications in production, right? There is a very cool question in the chat from Needy Satya. Thanks for participating. And she asks, does pricing vary significantly across models for similar token usage? The answer is yes, and dramatically. Right? So you can use cheaper models like Haiku, Titan for simple tasks, and reserve premium models like Opus, Sonnet, DeepSeek for complex reasoning. And you can program that in your application. Right? If you advance more and work with agents to agent things and Bedrock Agent Core, you can orchestrate and trigger different Lambda functions that will invoke different models based on another Lambda function that will decide if that user, for example, pays the premium or not. So you can have a user interacting with a simpler model or a model with restricted max tokens usage, which I'm going to show code how to do that on the code, or a more beefier model with more, that will consume more tokens to give you the answer. This variance can depend from 10 to 100 times. It dramatically varies according to the model that you're using, right? So thanks for that question. That question is very important, and keep them coming.
And
if you go
also,
to oh,
maybe just
go ahead, Frank.
to add to what Oksana has shown, she was presenting the Nova model family, and they are extremely low on cost, for example.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
it's
see the difference right now. You can play with the tool available. It's on aws.amazon.com/bedrock/pricing. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So I was showing Nova models, and I can go back quickly. Let's see. Nova Lite, price per 1 million input tokens is 30 cents. So if you run 2 million tokens, that would be 60 cents. And let's just pick the one next to it, Anthropic. Depending on the model you choose, you see the price changes significantly per 1 million input tokens. And there is also a big difference between output tokens. So just like Raf said, it's important to understand how to route requests to the right model. You will most likely not use the same model for all of your requests because it's not cost effective. You would route simpler queries to the cheaper model, and those that need more reasoning or logic will go to the more expensive models, depending on your use case.
yep.
And also that answers Amit's question, because he was just asking about Sonnet 3.7 and Sonnet 4.6.
hmm
So it's exactly this table which will give you the answer.
Yes. Also, Amit, thanks for your question. And I am, that's why it's interesting to have three presenters, right? Because I read that question. I have a demo where I am going to use the Bedrock Playground to compare models. And I am already configuring here to do the same prompt and see the token consumption between the Claude 3.7 and the Sonnet 4.6. So I'm going to actually show you how many tokens each of these different models will use. Not now. We have something other planned for now. Yeah.
I believe Frank also has something interesting for us.
Yep.
Yes, so I'm just also sharing my screen. And yeah, just want to talk about not the content domain itself, but rather want to let you know about cost optimization can be also done using MCP servers. Just want to make you aware that we have a good amount of MCP servers listed in our AWS Labs account in GitHub. And this is exactly what I'm showing here. And if you go to the source folder, you will see all of those different MCP servers. And just searching for cost here on the bottom of the page, and you will notice that there is two cost-related MCP servers. One is called Billing Cost Management. The other one is called Cost Explorer. So actually, they are quite similar. And I'm just headed here for the Cost Explorer MCP server, and here you can get some more information about what this is going to give you as different features and what is available. And you can not even verify what cost you have currently, but also you can forecast future costs, as you can see here. So why don't we try it out? And talking about MCP servers, maybe the easiest way to try them out is using Kiro. And I have added the cost-related MCP server already here. So I'm just starting the Kiro CLI. Just want to double check if I really have this server available. So I'm just listing them here. And you can see that it's here on this line, AWS Labs Cost Explorer MCP server. So how can I interact with this? What you can do is just have prepared some examples here. So for example, which tools are available? Just out of curiosity, what is possible in terms of how can this MCP server help me at all? And so it will help me with getting cost and usage information. It will also be able to get cost comparison drivers, so analyze the top 10 cost drivers currently. And of course, also something quite basic, it will help me to understand what is today's date, because if I ask something like, what's the cost from last month, it has to figure out, okay, what month are we in currently? And so if you ask something like, what about my cost for a specific AWS profile for the last month? So then you may want to also focus on a specific region. And then this is what you get out of that. You may need to confirm that you want to trust a certain MCP server in this case.
That's a good
And then-
security feature.
Absolutely. So I didn't automate trust here for all of these. And then as you can see, it will give me the top 5 services in terms of cost: OpenSearch, DynamoDB, EC2, and CloudTrail, and also VPC. And it will give me some further notable costs. So that's one quite nice feature, and all provided by a single MCP server. So that is linked, or that is able to directly inspect my AWS account. And if you have several profiles, you can also inspect several accounts, of course. And then you might go a little bit further, and you might want to go back to, okay, but I'm preparing for the exam. So could you maybe give me some better focused exam hints? And what I've done here is I created a prompt to prepare for the exam under domain 4, which cost-related knowledge is relevant. And then just to be sure, I also provided the link to that domain number 4, paste it in here. And let's see what we get. So the idea is I want to only extract the domain contents which are cost related. And for that reason, it's sometimes helpful to ask Hero, because you don't want to go through all of the different skill items one after the other. And then you will get some understanding about what is relevant. So while Kiro is searching, I can tell you that one interesting service which helps you to reduce your cost is the so-called cost optimizer. And what that can do is it can inspect the current cost on EC2 and can verify if there's any potential way to reduce the cost by choosing a smaller EC2 instance, given that the percentage of CPU and memory is not at the limit. And yeah, so this is asking for confirmation.
There is also another great service. It's called Cost Explorer. It will tell you the breakdown of your costs, and it can even estimate costs for the months. So if you are running several services and it's just the mid-months or the beginning of the months, Cost Explorer can project the potential cost if you're running it at the same rate or potentially nothing changes. That could be helpful as well. And take a look at the exam guide, the services at the end, closer to the bottom of the exam. If you're preparing for this exam, it would be helpful for you to narrow down the services that you have to keep in mind and really understand.
Absolutely. And here you get the extracted information about what is relevant in terms of cost, and specifically in this exam. And of course, it's about token efficiency. It's about understanding, okay, if I select a model that has certain consequences based on cost, and what about my resource utilization, for example? Is there any way that I can do batch activities using my model invocations, just as Oksana mentioned? If I'm not under pressure, don't need near real-time and also not real-time inference, then I can also use batch. Okay, so that's my little insights into cost. If you have any further questions, let us know in the chat.
Yes. I will. There is one very interesting comment that I would like to follow up here from Needy. When we talked about the token consumption and things like that, like, thank you for answering my question. Then one has to design the AI pipeline accordingly. And the answer is yes. And we are very happy that you're here. And can you see that now AI come with that complexity, right? And it requires more people with architecting, understanding about how to architect the AI products. All of these people are demanding. So, which ultimately connects on how AI is needing more than ever people that has the knowledge about all these things to implement, right? So I'm very happy that you said that and we reached that insight together, right? Then one has to design the AI pipeline accordingly. That's correct. On the same way that when big data was a boom, lots of big data professionals got in the circuit. And it changes, it evolves, and we are happy you are here, and we are happy that we are all learning this together. Another question from William is, how does reserved tier pricing work in Bedrock? It says price per hour. So is that X24, X30, or for a monthly cost? So it works very similar to the reserved instances. When you have EC2 instances and you reserve an instance, if you are familiar with that, Bedrock pricing model is the same. Basically, you pay up front for capacity, but if you don't use that, then you already paid for that. But by doing so, you paid at a discounted price. So my recommendation here is understand this and look to this to the same way as you look to the reserved instances, which our default recommendation is run for a couple of weeks or for a couple of months, see your usage. When you know the estimated amount of token utilization or commitment, then you do 1 or 6 month commitment plans. You're going to have a discount, but now you have a predicted usage for that. So you know you're not going to go up or down. And it's interesting because all of this model inferencing that you do to Bedrock, it reports metrics to CloudWatch. So you can keep an eye on those. On the same way you do with reserved instances, right? So you use provisioned throughput when you have consistent high volume inference needs predicted, right? You need guaranteed throughput with no throttling. You are using custom fine-tuned models, which is required if you're using if you were using custom and fine-tuned models. You must use provisioned throughput, and when the costs per token would be lower than on demand at your volume. So I hope that helps answering your question. There is another question here, which is how do you decide which foundation model in Amazon Bedrock to use for a production workload, and what evaluation framework do you recommend? The answer to that is there are basically 4 metrics that we keep an eye on that will help you deciding which model to choose. The first one is the latency. Because the models that are smaller, the models that have been trained over a smaller data set, they tend to perform faster because you are inferencing a model that has a smaller data set, has smaller number of neural network connections to make, and so on and so forth. So the first one is the latency. The second one is the cost per request, right? Sometimes you have a high budget for a specific application, and you don't mind using more expensive models for that because you want more refined, more quality with the responses. Token efficiency is also another factor that we consider, and the quality score, the quality of the model output, right? So the key is to start simple, see if the model is performing pretty much how we analyze EC2 instance types, right? Do I choose a medium instance, a larger instance, a smaller instance? The recommendation is run, monitor, and adapt according to your constraints. If it is latency, if it is performance, if it is the quality of the output, right?
There is
And
a tool in Bedrock. It's called Model Evaluation that allows you to compare different models. There you go. That's what I'm showing. So you can evaluate, compare, and select the foundation models for different use cases. And there are different evaluation types. You can use LLM as a judge. You can use a programmatic approach, add human in the loop, and 2 other approaches are for RAG applications.
yeah, you can even integrate with RAG because sometimes you have a model that is custom information from your data set. Oksana is showing the product page for the model evaluation, and let me share my screen. Ba-bang, magic. And this is the console for the model evaluation that Oksana was showing. So you can create model evaluation, you can do programmatic, you can specify multiple models, and so on and so forth. But the demo I want to show you right now is not about model evaluation. Actually, we will be evaluating models, but we will be using some tools on the test part of the Bedrock console. And I would like to start this with the following question. You have a chatbot with 1 million requests per month, and you know that because of CloudWatch, right? You're using Bedrock, and then you go to CloudWatch metrics, and you see each request uses an average of 2,000 input tokens and 500 output tokens. And you also know that because there are CloudWatch metrics that will tell you that. What strategy would you think about to use to reduce costs, right? I want you to think about this for a while because this is a very realistic scenario. I want to reduce costs. All I have are these requests per month, the input tokens, the output tokens. Well, let me show you a tool that that the console has. Let me reduce the font size here because I'm going to come back in the source code in a minute. And the first feature that I want to show you is the tokenizer. The tokenizer can be used from the management console, but can also be used programmatically, right? If you go to Kiro and ask Kiro, create a snippet that does a tokenizer call for me. The tokenizer allows you to choose a model, specify a prompt, and do like a dry run without actually invoking the model. And you can specify what is Amazon Bedrock. This will estimate the number of input tokens necessary for this request, right? It is an estimate, it is a dry run, it doesn't invoke the model. Okay, so this is the tokenizer. These API calls can be done programmatically. You can choose a different model here. Claude Sonnet 4, Claude Sonnet 3.5, then you can do the same one and you can see that 14 input tokens. The other tool that I want to show you is the Bedrock Playground. So you select a model to get started, and I remember someone I have favorited the question here. Sonnet, let's compare Sonnet 3.7 and Sonnet 4.6. So I'm going to choose Anthropic, Sonnet 3.7, right? Sonnet
Yes.
3.7, apply, and then here I have something called compare mode, which I can enable, and it gives me the chance of selecting another model. There is a hidden plus button here on the side which I can click and even compare 3 models simultaneously. I'm going to select a model, and the other one was the Sonnet 4.6, right, which is a more modern one. Sonnet 4.6. Notice that the Sonnet 4.6 uses there it supports more inputs, more input tokens, right, than the Sonnet 3.5. So let's choose Sonnet 4.6, and let me open the configuration pane for both these models. And this is another thing I wanted to talk about. Depending on the model you use, the payload of the request that you send to the model for the API call may require different parameters. Luckily, the AWS documentation is very detailed, and you can ask Hero to help you with building these requests if you're working with source code. One thing which I'm going to compare later is doing the same prompt to 2 different models by choosing different output tokens. But for now, I am going to choose the same amount of tokens, let's say 5,000, for these 2 models, the Sonnet 4.6 and the Sonnet 3.7. And you can see that both of them are from Anthropic. Both of them you can specify the same parameters. And I'm going to do the what is Amazon Bedrock. I'm just going to do a sample inference. What is Amazon Bedrock, and run. Now both these models are running concurrently, and it will tell me how many input tokens, output tokens, and latency it took for the request. Here is input tokens, here is output tokens, and here's the latency for each one of these 2 models. If you mouse over, it tells you like this is input tokens, this is output tokens, and this is the latency. So this is how you can compare the same prompt for different models, compare the responses, and see how much each one of these would cost. So if you can calculate relatively, you can say that from 349 it reduced to 187. By heart, I don't know how much percentage this is, but you can do very good estimates by using this tool. And also you can see the latency, and you can introduce caching to see if the latency reduces. It's a good playground, right? So you can also compare the answers. 3.7 Sonnet, when this model was trained, this was the answer with no rags, right, so far, and no guardrails. I'm just running a vanilla call for the models. And you can see that the answer from Claude Sonnet 4.6 is more enhanced with the little table and bullets and everything. Okay, now let me open the preference pane for each of these different models. And let's say, going back to our question, let's say I want to fine tune these. So I want to go there and reduce the maximum amount, maximum output tokens. So for this one, I am going to run with 600 tokens. And for the other one, I am going to run with, let's say, 10,000, 95,000 tokens. Run. The left one, let me write something new. Oksana, and what should I ask? Let's
Why is the
think.
sky blue?
Why is the sky blue? All right, run. So you can see that now they are running with different parameters. And the left one consumed less tokens than the right one, and it ran faster than the right one. And it also consumed less input tokens, but that's because it's preserving the history. And every time I move the conversation forward, the memory is carried and the number of input tokens to the model gets reduced. But you can see that with that simple question, you don't need lots of tokens to answer that question. Then you can limit that. So by limiting that, you are limiting the amount of tokens the model uses. If we go here and we say, let's say 100 tokens, right? And let's close the configuration pane again, and let's say, what is Amazon S3? Then I'm gonna run. One of them is very limited with a maximum output of 100 tokens. So you can see it limited, and it running 3.3 seconds, while the other one took the double of time to run. So this query, I keep saying query, but it's not query, it's inferencing, because I come from a database world, but you know what I mean. So this interaction here was faster and cheaper, right? Let's take a look at the responses. You have a more basic answer in this one, and this one you have a more elaborated response. So sometimes you are running an application where the front end might be limiting the number of characters that you are displaying. If your backend is doing beefier and expensive API calls, you are throwing that away by limiting the amount of characters in the front end. Which brings me back to that other question from Needy. Now someone needs to design an AI pipeline accordingly. That's right. So once you have more knowledge about the things, you can see that things can get complex. Not complicated, because this is easy to use with like out-of-the-box API calls that you can do. And speaking about API calls you can do, I have two Python snippets here that does invocation to two different models, Amazon Titan and Amazon Cloud Sonnet 3. And you can tell how different they look. Remember when I told you that different models require different payloads on the invoke model API call? So I'm passing the body for both of them, and in one case the body contains this, and in the other one the body contains different things, right? So make sure that you were doing the proper API call according to the model that you want to use. If you use the Amazon Titan Express, see on the documentation what do you have to include in the payload. And here's where you would limit the number of max token count to one model or another, right? So in code, that's what it means when you go and change the number of all these parameters here, right? They become in code, they become payloads in your API call. So I just wanted to show this demo and connect these with the questions of our very curious audience that is making very curious and very interesting questions. All
It
right.
was interesting. Yeah. Thank you for showing your demo. Let's bring up the exam question,
Sample
or
question time.
yes, a simple question, not the one that you will see on the exam, not at all. This is the question that we decided to include into our live stream, and the question will have the same technical depth as the ones that you will see on the exam. It's a little bit shorter. Frank, do you have the trivia tool?
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think for those who joined the other sessions, you know what the story is. If you want to participate, just take a screenshot of this QR code, and please give yourselves a nickname, not shorter than 3 letters, and then you can just participate, and we will altogether have 3 different questions, and this is the first one. So just giving you some time to join the challenge.
Read the QR code. Meanwhile, I think we can address, while people scan the QR code, I think we can get this question here. How do we handle model version upgrades without breaking downstream apps? This is one of the cool advantages of Bedrock. Remember in this code that I show you, one of the parameters that you pass on the API call is model ID, and you specify the model ID. When Bedrock supports a new FM, you can just change that. And then you can apply all the deployment sequence pipelines that you may have, code pipeline, A/B testing, all these things to test applications using one and another model, right?
And also check use cases when you would apply model A or N. I think one of them is about provisioned throughput. If you provision a separate model, you would have to apply the ARN of the provisioned throughput model. Just a little bit of a difference, but there are many tricky details that you might see on the exam. So you really have to understand, like Raf said, the complete architecture, all of the components, how they work together, how you would troubleshoot, how you would optimize costs, and pay attention to the very last sentence. Is it the most cost-effective or most operationally efficient solution? Because all of them could be possible, but one of them is the best.
Perfect.
All right, so let's go. We have 23 participants. I just want to give you some details about how it works. So you have 90 seconds in order to answer the question. I'm going to briefly read the question to you, and then you can read the answers on your own, and only 1 out of 4 answers is correct. So let's start with question number 1. So you read it here. A company processes millions of transaction files daily from an S3 using Bedrock Invoke Model API. Growth is unpredictable, and the developer cannot plan capacity ahead. All files must be processed within 72 hours without impacting other apps using the same model. Which solution is most cost-effective? An important...
Most cost-effective.
Yes. So read through the different answers and then pick the best possible answer.
This is one thing that we've been saying in every show, the most cost-effective. When I read the most cost-effective, I imagine, okay, probably all of them do it, but one of them is more cost-effective. So I start looking for cost things, right? This is very typical on traditional architecting exams when we talk about spot instances, right? If you see like cost effective on traditional architecting exam and the answer talks about spot instances, that's a good candidate. So let me read the answers. Use lambda functions that are invoked by an Amazon image. Okay.
And look for keywords.
Yeah.
So some of the things that are really important that developers cannot plan capacity. Then they're invoking through Bedrock let me see. So the solution should not impact other applications that are using the same model. There are several keywords. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So good job. Most of you got it right. 13 people. And yeah, so the correct answer was use lambda functions that are invoked by daily Amazon Event Bridge rule. So just on a regular basis, but only once per day. The functions request batch inference jobs for files uploaded in the last 24 hours. So that's exactly what is most cost-effective using this batch feature. And just if you look at the duck-related answer, this is pretty much the opposite. So you are using the most expensive way to run a model, which is in provisioned throughput. That is difficult to put it into the best position. And also the other two, so using cross-region inference profiles, helps with distributing the load, but will not make it more efficient. And process files in a secondary AWS region using dedicated invoke model API calls. Again, that will not save you a significant amount of cost. Okay, so the
Yeah,
GRAF is really the best.
cross-region replication has a cost to it, and cross-region inference is something I mentioned a little earlier. It's charged based on on-demand processing or inference. So something to remember: on-demand versus batch. Batch always wins.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was great. And okay, we have so much to cover.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's quickly discuss the troubleshooting and monitoring part, which is a big part of the final two domains, domain 4 and domain 5 from the exam guide. I have a quick cheat sheet that I created. So when you think about troubleshooting and monitoring, you have to understand what kind of issues could happen, where to look for them, and what are the potential fixes? How can you resolve the issues? And I will just be super quick here. So one of the issues is hallucinations. You probably all know what it is. It's when the model gives you the output that sounds correct, but it's incorrect because the model hasn't been trained on that information and there is no knowledge base. So you could look into model invocation logs that are being stored. You have to enable that feature in Bedrock, and then the prompts and the inference would be stored in CloudWatch logs as JSON, but there is a size limit. Larger files could go into S3, or you could enable both. So something to consider here: guardrails, RAG, and automated reasoning. Next, if you have latency or throttling issues, you can take a look at the CloudWatch metrics, specific metrics for invocation latency or invocation throttles. You can optionally enable X-ray, which would trace your entire environment and identify bottlenecks or latency issues. Some quick fixes here: prompt caching in terms of latency, which could save you up to 85, which could offer up to 85% in latency improvements. You can enable response streaming or switch to a faster model if needed. With throttling, consider provisioned throughput with dedicated capacity. Look into a simple queue service to queue requests during spikes so you don't lose those requests. Then distribute load across with cross-region inference. Just see what's best for your specific use case. These are just some of the potential opportunities. With high costs, same CloudWatch. CloudWatch is #1 monitoring service. You will see it across all of the monitoring and questions. With high costs, Raf was talking about max tokens to limit responses. You can look into caching again. You can route simple queries to cheaper models. Think about batch inference. And finally, if you have poor quality of the responses, look into invocation logs again, check evaluation metrics. In Bedrock, we talked about the Bedrock evaluations feature. On the SageMaker side, it's Model Monitor that monitors your model in production and identifies bias or drift in quality. This cheat sheet is for the Bedrock side specifically. Look into optimizing your prompts. You can use intelligent prompt routing that will route prompts to different FMs within the same model. You can tune parameters, update your knowledge bases, set up guardrails to monitor quality. There are so many opportunities, and it might sound a little overloading, but it is the professional level certificate. So you have to really understand what are the opportunities, what are the potential fixes for different types of issues. And you will not be asked for one fix. It will be, as Raf mentioned, a complete architecture scenario that will flow with different services. I know that, Frank, you have a demo of model invocations.
Yes, really a quick one. Just wanted to make you aware of one monitoring aspect that is also part of the potential questions that you will see. And just sharing my screen again. So what you see here is in the Amazon Bedrock menu, you go just down to configure and learn into settings. And in settings, that's exactly where you can activate model logging. That is always inactive by default. And just if you could show my screen again. And that's always inactive by default. And you can switch between, or you can choose between S3 only, CloudWatch logs only, or both S3 and CloudWatch logs logging. And what will be logged in this case is everything that you activate here. And then how it looks like, there will be a specific log created that you have to specify. So in my case, I called it model invocations. And in the log stream, what you will get is as a JSON content, it will give you all of the details which are relevant in terms of model invocation, which is, time of the day, the prompt that you have sent over to the model, as well as the answer, and plus latency and input-output token. So all of that will be logged, and that will help you to understand, okay, what has been going on with this specific model. And this is a region-wide setting, okay? Maybe that should put it into a nutshell in terms of model invocation logging.
That sounds great. Let's look at one more question. We've got time.
Exactly. Next question, just reading it out to you. A company uses Bedrock to automate help desk ticket triage with a well-structured prompt template. The system includes API Gateway, Lambda, Bedrock, Invoke Model API, and response validation. Some tickets intermittently receive unexpected classifications. Which approach is best here? So which approach could help you to analyze why this takes place? Read through the answers yourselves, pick the best one. What do you think in this case? For those who join later, you can still capture the QR code on the left-hand side.
What are the keywords here? What would you recommend paying attention to?
You have to think about a monitoring approach which really focuses on the specific content that Bedrock was delivering. So in terms of CloudWatch logs insights, that sounds interesting in terms of analysis. But if you look at the Lambda function logs, that's a question if that is helpful enough. Custom CloudWatch metrics, something that if you do something custom, that's always a little bit, overhead and additional work. And for that reason, what's definitely most straightforward here is to use this existing feature without doing any sort of custom activities. And that is exactly this Bedrock model invocation, which I briefly showed you earlier. So that's the exact correct feature here. And also most of you picked it correctly. And all of the others are either more complicated or will not help you at all. So that's the outcome of this question.
Yeah, with model invocation logging, you can capture raw prompts and responses from the model. You can inspect those prompts. You can inspect all of the additional settings that Frank showed, like latency and other things, to understand where the issue is. Or maybe you could optimize that prompt. You can do something else with that to improve the model or improve the responses. And for CloudWatch metrics by itself, they don't explain you why something is wrong. They just show you that there is an anomaly. You would need to look into logs to understand why there is a problem. And X-ray, it really applies to performance issues. So it doesn't look into logs. It looks at the architecture, identifies timeouts, latency, throttling, more on a application level.
Yeah.
I think there's even time for the last question, isn't it? Okay.
Let's do it.
We have time for one more. Yeah.
All right. So then a company uses the Bedrock Converse API to serve millions of users. Invocation logging sends logs to CloudWatch. The company needs to track usage per user to monitor traffic patterns and attribute costs accurately. Which action meets these requirements? Final question for today. So again, regarding monitoring. So what we need to track is usage per user and attribute cost per user.
A company uses the Bedrock Converse API to serve millions of users invocation log and sends log to CloudWatch. The company needs to track usage per user to monitor traffic patterns and attribute costs accurately. Which action meets these requirements?
That's a hard one.
It's interesting because this is a question that is more related to Bedrock and its features.
Mhm.
Because lots of the other questions we saw were actually architecting questions, right?
Yeah.
So expect to find more Bedrock things in troubleshooting and monitoring part.
Oh,
Okay. That
yay.
was B. So most of you got it right. Absolutely. And yeah, so this was first of all about the user ID, which obviously in the monkey answer, this was not even mentioned. So in turn, user ID has to be part of the answer in some certain way. And then the others are containing the user ID, but actually to really connect it to the Converse API invocation, it will not be sufficient to use X-ray here, but you will use the way that how is described in the second answer.
Yeah, X-ray traces communication between services. It does not trace individual API calls, so that service wouldn't work. And user ID is something that I usually think about the prompt, the system prompt, when you're saying that you are a helpful assistant. Well, if you're adding the user ID into that prompt, that could be really confusing to your model. So that option doesn't work as well.
That's true.
And then that's how you can narrow down. And do you guys have any tips for the exam now that we're approaching the end?
Yeah, I would like to address some questions from the chat while we still have time. And one is, I had it here. How can I track token usage? So there are basically two ways. One of them is before doing the inference with the tokenizer tool, which do like a dry run, and you can estimate how many input tokens, not output, because for the output tokens you need to reach the model. So you were doing the call. If you want to track input token usage at no span, you can use the tokenizer. And for real inferences that had worked, that have happened over time, you can go to CloudWatch and you can have metrics on CloudWatch regarding token usage. Another question that I have here is, which is not a question, is like a suggestion. It would be awesome if Bedrock was supported in savings plans. I'm taking note of that, and I'm feedbacking that to the Bedrock service teams. I know the software developer engineers that work there, and the managers, and I'll pass that feedback for them. Another one is dynamic model selection, and someone just said that, and I think it was in response to some other question that another one of you asked. Let me share my screen and show a difference about a feature, actually. Understanding intelligent prompt routing in Amazon Bedrock. This is a feature in Amazon Bedrock. If you support multiple models from the same family, let's say Sonnet 3.5, Sonnet Opus 4.1, like all of them are from Anthropic, you can use Amazon Bedrock intelligent prompt routing, which I would love to have more time to do a demo about it and to explain about you, about this feature. But if you search for intelligent prompt routing, there are some things that can be done in this matter to choose the model automatically, right? Another question that
I think we're running out of time, Raf. Guys, if you have everyone, if you have questions, please send those questions over to us in on LinkedIn. We're
yeah,
very responsive. We would like to hear from you. We will share the link to the 4-step exam plan. Take a look at the questions as part of those that plan. They're really great. There are 75 questions that will help you understand the scope of the exam, and there is some exciting news. We're live streaming next Wednesday again for a different topic. It's the agentic AI demonstrated. Yeah, Raf has that.
yeah. So we are going to continue
How about
coming here in the same place in the same time. And next week we are starting a new show where we are going to cover the AWS Agentic AI demonstrated. So stay with us. Let's learn together. And now let's tackle one certification at a time. The one that we are going to cover next time, and next same time, same hour, same locations, is the AWS Agentic AI demonstrated. All right. So stay with us, and thanks a lot for the chat
thank
questions. I
you.
connect with us on LinkedIn, make your questions. Let's continue learning and let's learn together.